The following is a presentation of the iRacing eSports Network.
Live tonight from the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, LSR TV with you to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the 2018 CEA Cars eSport Tour on your home for sim racing and the iRacing eSports Network, where tonight we go racing for the 9th time on this season, and it is one of our special events as we get set to go late model stock racing. This is the American Pool Supply 200. And as always, we're happy that you're sticking with us at a Wednesday evening. To myself, Evan Pusoko, Austin Coop, as always, upstairs with you. David Shieldhouse also joining us with Cisco Scardamusa downstairs. And Coop, we come into tonight, actually second consecutive week of Cars eSport Tour action featuring exclusively the late model stocks, and they're back in action here tonight. And anytime we only have one division on track means that we've got a little bit of extracurriculars before we go main event racing. And tonight, no different with this special event with our friends at American Pool Supply partnering on for the American Pool Supply 200. We've got a couple of heats, a couple of other events coming up as well, and LCQ all before we get set to talk about tonight's actual main event. So right now, there's a good number of about 40 or so drivers in this one, all going to be buying for a spot for our 125 lap main.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a huge deal, and the fact that we've got qualifying going on right now and around 35, 36 drivers currently trying to get their way into the feature, just by making it much easier on them to start up front in their heat, and then we'll have a break after 2 heats. I believe we're gonna have an LCQ after that, and then we'll see who's left after it, because we've got obviously roughly around 40 drivers. It's way too many drivers to put around here, so kind of like you see typically at Dirt, we're doing the heat style for this, and so we'll get a lot of short races here. And I think everyone's gonna like the fact that we've got these shorter races coming at it, and then we're gonna see 2 completely different bunches of drivers here.
And you can see how the night is going to unfold. 3 heat races to get things started. It gives us a good opportunity to split up that very high card count and get these drivers trying to qualify into the main event. So you have 3 heats of 25 laps apiece. The top 8 drivers from each of those to qualify in. Everybody else that is a paying member of the Super Late Model Series will then be able, if you didn't already qualify in, you'll head to that LCQ. That one presented by Sim Marketing Solutions, and then only 4 drivers from that one going to get a ticket into the main event, the American Pool Supply 200 later on. The one thing to keep in mind, as we talked about it is the 9th race of the season, David. So, well, there's, some familiar faces, some faces we haven't seen in quite some time as well here tonight. You do have to keep in mind that in Cars eSport Tour Orlando, we're getting down to the end of this championship. Only 3 races to go after tonight. We'll go to Lanier, Five Flags, and Sovo. Both series going to be in action at at all of those races, I should say. But into tonight, Matt Cucker leads your late model stock standings. Certainly somebody to keep an eye on.
Yeah, no time to lose here as the season starts to dwindle down to the last few remaining events. You got to get everything you can every time out, and here at the Bullring, this is a place that can chew you up and spit you out if you're not careful. You can lose a lot of points, much more so than you can make up points here tonight. Tight confines, short track racing at its finest. Some of the biggest names in modern cup racing cut their teeth here at the Bullring, i.e. Kurt and Kyle Busch. Another big name could emerge here tonight, victorious, and forge their name into the history books here for the Car Sport Tour. That's something to look out for tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing if it's going to be a mainstay of the series or one of the newer names coming out on top tonight.
And you talk about some of those drivers from the real-world side of things. Scott Gaffarini going to be on track. May not be a familiar name for those tuned in, but he is the all-time winningest driver at the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I believe we'll see him later on this evening in heat number 2. Just an update for you, quick format change. We're going to squish everybody into 2 main event heats, so there's going to be 2 heats of 25 laps in distance. So let's introduce you to heat number 1. Let's go top to bottom. This is your LSR TV starting grid for heat race number 1. So pole position in this one going to be handed out to the driver of the number 60 Matt Cucker going to start for the front row with Brandon Wilkinson alongside in P2. Reed Rundell, Will Dravicki back in row 2. They'll start 3rd, 4th, and Dawson Fletcher rounds through your top 5.
AJ Rogers, you can start in the... Let me get my microphone turned the right way. He's going to start in the 6th position with Ricky Harden starting 7th, 8th. Jack Ritchie, 9th, is going to go to Jeff Cody, and then Jeremy Adams is going to start in the 10th position.
It's going to be Blake Neer starting 11th. Looks like Rafe Slade in 12th. Charlie Melvin in 13th. Brad Carpenter is going to roll off 14th. Robbie Bundin from the 15th position. Bruno Latour in 16th. Sean Cross 17th. And the final starter in this first heat, Gary Sexton in the number 13 car rolling off from the 18th position.
So obviously, when you crunch things down, Coop, as we get set to go green from 3 heats down to 2, means a lot less drivers get to advance immediately in heat race number 1. 25 laps, also not a lot of time. Should be fun right out of the gate tonight.
Yeah, we're going to keep our eyes right around the 8th place area because that's who gets to make it in. Everyone in the top 8, they get to go under the feature. And then everyone who doesn't make it, they'll get a last chance qualifier later on. But yeah, we've got to watch all those 18 drivers, half of which may or may not be rolling on.
And it'll be fun to watch the battle up front as we go Cars eSport Tour Racing from Las Vegas. But again, 8 drivers, the main thing to keep an eye on as heat race 1 is green. 8 will advance right into tonight's main event. No issues up front. Top 2 going to sort it out. There is a battle back on row number 2. It's the 30 machine to kick back up top as Will Dravicki, who loses out in the fight between he and Reed Rundell, and then also going to get passed up by that 71 machine of Dawson Fletcher, trying to put himself a little bit further away. 3 wide back in the back as well. All of that rating around our transfer position, and it's the 51 of Jeff Coat right in the middle of the 3 wide.
A veritable hornet's nest back here near the transfer position. These guys know the start and the restart are the best times to make up spots, making some desperate moves, but keeping it straight. A little bit of bent sheet metal, no worse for the wear otherwise as we stay green, but really tight racing here as they get forced down underneath those rumble strips in 1 and 2. That's the number 89, the number 72 battling side by side there as well. Jack Ritchie in the 72. And the 89 of Jeremy Adams fighting hard, but still racing clean. That's Bullring racing for you, Evan.
Yeah, that 72 got that 14, but to Blake Neer, all kinds of loose, and Blake Neer did a good job of hanging on to it, Coop, but no good news for him as he's now way outside of the transfer positions at 8-14th, and we got a spinner in the back of the pack. That one is Sean Cross, who just got turned around in the 83 machine. He had some help courtesy of Gary Sexton into the left rear quarter panel, and that's going to be our first caution flag of the night.
And crazy thing, we were talking about the 14 and Blake Neer. He was in that transfer position just before that caution flew, and now he's in 14th position just because he got in a little contact with somebody, and then they went up the track. Both drivers did, but he got the worst of it. He couldn't get his car back under control for a full lap or so, and so bad news for him because there was nothing he was doing wrong. Just basically the aggressive driving that does happen in these heat races start to really formulate, and we're not halfway there yet, but 25 laps is a really short amount of time when you're running 14-second lap times or 15-second lap times around here. You do 4 laps in a minute. That can go by pretty close. So these guys are definitely feel the desperation. That's definitely what David had said earlier.
And of course, it all makes sense when you look at how, I'm not going to say things were calm up front, but you certainly saw Cucker Wilkinson tucking along with each other pretty quickly. Nobody really wanted to be in a dicey situation. The yellow flag's going to take a good chunk of laps out of this thing, so if you're the folks battling in and around that transfer spot right now, Jeremy Adams in P8 and Charlie Melvin out in P9, certainly you don't want to be getting too aggressive with one another. caused an accident, you lose about 5 precious laps of trying to fight for that spot. But certainly that fight for P8 is going to be where all of the excitement is. And for Adams, just by nature of having to take a restart, David, to P8 might be tough because that'll put him outside of row 4. Therefore, maybe the guy who's lined up at a P9, Charlie Melvin, might be able to take a shot to the inside of him because he'll be on the inside of that next row.
If I'm Charlie Melvin, I am licking my chops right now at this restart because, yeah, he's in the preferred lane. You want to be on the bottom. You see these guys fighting to get to the bottom as hard as they can. That is the best way, the preferred line around this racetrack. It's really hard to make up time on the outside, especially in these late models. So, yeah, Charlie Melvin really in the catbird seat on this restart. Keep an eye on him to see if he can steal away position and jump up into that very coveted transfer position.
Pace car is going to drop back down at it. All 18 cars who started this one still on track. 10 laps down, 15 laps to go in heat race number 1. Back under green flag conditions, and it is another good start for Cocker. There's going to be contact behind, though. Ricky Harden gets slammed into the outside wall. Quickie caution, and just like that, we will slow things right back down. And I saw one car, I'm not sure who it was, Coop, but somebody came up in some third lane and tagged Harden into the corner.
Yeah, it looks like the 72 had shot the gap and went in between the 89 and the 17.3 wide and still somehow managed to keep that much speed. I don't know exactly why there was so much speed that was going through the corner when they were 3 wide, but that definitely took the 32 completely out right there. And good thing for him, good heads-up driving to recognize that there was no saving that car. Basically went right on the brakes. Ricky Hart did a really good job. If anything from tonight, he'll try and go to that LCQ. He'll be 17th on this restart, so it's he can still make it up, but that's going to be a tough pill to swallow considering now we're only going to have around 10 laps to go, and he was in a transfer position and basically just got knocked out. Actually, looks like he's taking it to the pits right now.
Well, and it wouldn't surprise me. He's going to be at the back. I was going to say the only driver he won't be behind is Jack Ritchie, who gets that end of the longest line penalty. Ritchie was only 2 positions out of the transfer spot, David, and obviously wasn't all that comfortable with a 15 lap to go restart and tried to get those 2 spots all at once there.
Oh my goodness, that is some impatience if I've ever seen it. He just needed to be a little more reserved in that move because he had plenty of time still, 15 laps to get up there if he really felt he had the speed to do it. And that's just what we classify as a good old big send. And forcing it 3 wide, I was laughing to myself just watching the replay. That was a very ambitious move by Mr. Ritchie, but that's short track racing for you. Again, we'll keep highlighting it, the urgency that these drivers will have knowing these heat formats mean either you're in or you're out, and you got to get up to the top 8. So that's the kind of good old-fashioned big move that you'll see from these guys trying to get up to the top 8.
Just wait till they start racing in the main event later on tonight for that $160 purse, and then maybe we can talk a little bit more about just how aggressive these moves are going to get. Again, this is just step number 1 on the way to be able to fight for the win in that American Bull Supply 200. More on that to come a little bit later. Let's go back out on top of the pace car, and again, out of the yellow takes a costly amount of laps out of this race for the drivers, still trailing that transfer position. Still 10 drivers out, 8 drivers in of the 18 who started, and the pace car is going to go down and in this time. 9 more laps to go. Let's see if anybody up front wants to mind their P's and Q's and how desperate things get around that cutoff spot. Matt Cocker going to be in control for the restart once more. Green flag in the air was a very slow restart, though, so he'll lead to turn 1, but it checked everybody up going into the corner. There's a lot of cars bouncing off each other out of the top 10.
I think it looked like a slow restart just because of the fact that Brandon Wilkinson was trying to gain an advantage by just keeping his speed up, and it didn't work because he waited to the very last moment to get on the gas pedal. That's why you're seeing him get so far away. But now Reed Rundle's on the inside. No, we got a lot of contact for third position right there. The 71 on Dawson Fletcher right on the inside. Got into Brandon Wilkinson. He was second on that last restart. Now he's going to slide all the way back to 4th if he's not careful. Some of these guys might get into it like the 17, and you're seeing a back hit on the 70 right on the bottom.
He tries to get back down onto the inside of the racetrack here for these 2 drivers. Listen, nothing wrong with going head-to-head and with some good old short track action, but the last thing you want to do is get into each other to the point where you might take both of you outside of the transfer position. Sure, I'm sure 3rd position sounds a lot better than 4th, but both of those spots get you to the main event. So while Wilkinson and Fletcher continue the fight there, AJ Rogers and Will Dravicki are in 5 and 6, and another big slide. That time again, the 14 of Blake Neer, who was in a transfer spot earlier, was involved in an incident, got dropped back. He's now trying to get back above that line. He's one spot out in P9, but he's getting roughed up by Cote.
I think it's just a difference in braking spots. You know, the guys that are in the transfer spots maybe are a little bit earlier to the braking because they're trying to go easy, and the guys that are on the outside looking in are a little bit later getting to the brakes, and you see them really sneak up on one another on the entry to these tight corners, and that makes for some anxious moments. But now they're single file. Everyone sort of got to the bottom, and when you're a race car driver and you're just following a guy around, laps are running out, you got to do something. So Blake Neer in the 9th position needs one more spot. Can he find a way to get into that top 8? He's going to have to do something real big here, but he's under a lot of pressure. Contact there, moves him up the hill. There's the move right there, Evan. It could be a top 8 spot if he can get to the position, but I don't know, he lost a lot of momentum there.
I think a little bit of that was as well. The 14 got a shot at a 51 because Cote really wants to get going. It took those cars, though, too long to recover. Final lap of heat race number 1. Matt Kucker going to go pole the checker. He will win, but Charlie Melvin in the 54 is going to hang on. And in the battle for P9, Jeff Cote, sorry, moving Blake Neer out of the way. Coop, a little bit of temper flaring over there as those two fought to try to get up to P8. Neither of them did it.
Yeah, and Rafe Slate did the exact same thing. He was upset with him after the heat was over, and just as quickly as that one is over, we immediately get the next one started, and that's how iRacing has these heats set up. So one's done, the other one's ready to go.
Take a quick look at your race results for Heat Race 1. Matt Kucker, Rita Rundell, Brandon Wilkinson, Dawson Fletcher, AJ Rogers, the top 5. Will Dravicki, Jeremy Adams, and Charlie Melvin, your top 8 that advanced to the main event. Jeff Cote, Rafe Slate, Blake Neer, Robbie Bundon, Sean Cross, Ricky Harden, Gary Sexton, Jack Ritchie, Bruno Latour, Brad Carpenter. Those are the drivers headed to the LCQ. We are set, though, for Heat Race number 2. Let's take a look at that starting lineup as we go trackside at your LSR TV starting grid. For Heat Race 2, Andrew Wooten will start this one on pole position, and it'll be accompanied by the 50 to Wade Tashida to the outside in second. 2 more fast competitors back on row 2, John Lade third, and Connor Blaze rolling off from 4th, with Richard L. Reagan Jr. rounding through your top 5.
Starting from the 6th place position, number 26 is Joe Burchett. So in the number 7 position is going to be TJ McGuire. We got Christian Peterson in that number 23 machine. He'll start 8th. 9th starts Oliver Cordell looking on the outside in with Tyler Dalton to his outside in 10th.
Ryan Doucette will roll off from the 11th position in the number 77. Scott Gaffarini in the number 12. You highlighted him earlier, Evan. Watch out for him. 13th goes to Jacob Porter. 14th is going to be Scott Austin. Jeremy Watkins is going to roll off from the 15th position. Todd Novosad is going to be in 16th. Jay Beasley, look out for him. He's rolling off from the 17th spot. And that'll be your final starter in Heat Race number 2.
We've seen Beasley a couple of times here on the iRacing surface. He and Gaffarini have been well acquainted with one another when they've been racing here at the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It is Scott's, though, first forte into the sim racing side of things, so we'll keep an eye on how he does. He starts this one 4 positions out of a transfer spot, hoping that he can just get the job done, not have to worry about relegating to an LCQ and a provisional come the main event. Pace car back down it in. 2 caution flags took a lot of laps out of the early race. Let's see what happens in Heat Race number 2. Green flag flies. We're back underway, and it is Andrew Wooten to turn 1.
Yeah, still side by side, just about for everyone past 2nd place position. Wade Cheetah got the outside, and we already have our first yellow for the 2nd heat. Looks like Jeremy Watkins, who started 15th, he's got a big tire mark on his left side, and probably someone got into him a little too hot and turned him over.
I think it was Jay Beasley, and this goes all the way back to turn 4. Coming to the green flag, the Donnie machine was a good bit off for the cars in front of him, but David, it looked like Jay Beasley wanted to get going, tried to go to the inside once, 90 wouldn't let him, and eventually just kind of tried to make his own lane. And if you look at him on the straightaway, sure, there's a lane there, but those cars come down into the corners. So the 27, by the time he got a fraction of a nose in there, the Donnie's just entering the corner like everybody else, essentially chops him off, not expecting a car to be down there in no man's land, and those 2 drivers bring out a very early yellow.
That move rarely works if you're Jay Beasley. The guy that you're trying to put that move on really isn't anticipating such a move to be put on him, I guess is the right way to put it. And yeah, you take your normal entry down into the corner, especially at a track like this. You think, all right, I got the spot covered. I don't have to worry about a guy putting his nose down there into my left rear. And well, when you're in the back of the pack and you only got 25 laps to get to the front, I guess those are the sort of things that you got to consider. And you know, thankfully it's only the first lap, and we'll lose a couple laps to a yellow, but they'll get it back gathered up and get after it again. But Jay Beasley shown the aggression that he's known for and has served him very well throughout his career. So we'll see if maybe he learns a lesson and goes a little bit easier here on this next restart. But good fighting, and maybe we can keep it green on the next one.
Going to be no change for him. He was very antsy starting in 17th position. I'm sure he'll be equally, if not more antsy, having to restart back in 17th position after getting hit with that end of the longest line penalty for being the cause of a caution. No changes. Everybody who started top 8 still run top 8. We did say John Lyde and Wade Tashita swap out 3rd and 2nd, but other than that, everybody who started a transfer spot, so good after that, 5-6 second dash down to the quarter coupe. And again, I don't think you could expect to go through a 25-lap heat race like this without any incidents, but a very quick yellow hurts those guys that were involved in it the most. If somebody needs the most green flag laps to go to be the last 2 cars at a grid, those are the ones, ironically, who got into it with each other as the lights go out and we get set to go again.
Oh yeah, definitely is completely avoidable, but I think what's not going to be something that is unavoidable is having these leaders be clean with each other, because all they got to do is finish in the top 8. So we know that the guys in the top 8 aren't going to be that aggressive unless they start falling back to that P8 position. So for these guys up front, we'll be seeing pretty easy on it. Maybe still some more frustrations there towards the back though.
Pace car off it in, 6 laps down, a long way to go at heat race number 2. The leaders getting a little bit comfortable with one another, leading on each other's doors, but it is going to be Wooten once again through and clear. And it looks like that number 15, Abishita Wade Cheetah, is going to get his P2 back, swapping it away, and takes that one back from John Lade. So 1-2 go back to normal. There's going to be contact. The 12 of McGuire, the 57 of Blaze got into it. Somehow we tucked back in line. A close call for a pair of top 5ers.
I have the biggest smile on my face watching this racing. The contact is so violent, but they're keeping it going. It's really fantastic stuff. This is short track racing, truly defined at its finest with these guys, wheeling and dealing, top side, low side, beating doors, banging fenders, nose to tail, smashing around this racetrack. I love it. This is great racing, and this is what heat racing is all about. It takes me back to my dirt roots and watching dirt heat racing there. It really applies everywhere. When you only have so many laps to get it done, all formalities go out the window, and you see it with these guys. They're getting comfortable with each other, but they're keeping it green. Now as we have the 93 sideways off turn 4, keeps it straight. Oliver Cordell with a great save there, but bottles everything up from P10 on back, and he's sideways again. Keep grabbing that inside.
He keeps getting down onto those curbs that are on the inside of the white line of the racetrack. It's kind of an incentive to keep you up and on the banking. This racetrack a lot more banked than it would appear just from one of the higher camera angles, but definitely on the inside of that bowl, some drivers like to dip their toes in the water down there, help that car rotate, but a little bit too much of that for Cordell drops him to P11. All of this is going on behind the transfer spot. Right now it belongs to the 77 Ryan Doucette, and Coupe relatively uneventful. You're talking about a 1.5 second gap between the final transfer spot and the next closest car, as Doucette actually goes to advance his position. He'll take 7th away. Tyler Dalton now in that final spot.
Yeah, and if you tell Doucette you're in the final transfer position, don't need to worry none. Well, you don't, those guys, but oh, well, there's also
now it
this.
Matters.
Yeah, now it matters. I was about to get the fact that you got some fast drivers behind you, but now a caution comes out. Now it's really important. That one spot he just got is really important.
It'll save him a good bit here on the restart. We'll take a look to see where this contact came from, and it was between that 93 of Oliver Cordell, and the contact came courtesy of Christian Peterson. We know Peterson mighty fast here on Wednesday nights, maybe a little bit impatient with the 93 who got onto those curbs time after time. David kept checking up in front of him, and this time there was no such contact. It was simply just Peterson getting into the back of him, and therefore Peterson going to be given that end of the longest line of penalty, basically take away his hopes of advancing through this heat race. He'll get kicked to the back. Cordell going to lose a handful of spots as well, so both those drivers going to be seeing more of each other as they drop to the back.
That's one of the biggest benefits of the EOL penalty, end of longest line penalty, is if you dump a guy and he goes to the back and you get put to the back, Well, you didn't really change much, and now you got a really mad driver right there next to you. Not saying that, you know, revenge is going to be exacted here because it really doesn't benefit anybody. But, you know, if you're Christian Peterson, I've seen him race plenty before right here on LSR TV. Very talented, very fast. But I think he got a little bit fed up with the 93 sort of bobbling in front of him every lap, and he knows he has to go. So no offense to Oliver Cordell, but excuse me, sir, I got to get up to the top 8, and you're in my way.
17 cars started heat race number 2. So again, just under half of them going to transfer in, courtesy of those top 8 spots. And to go back on the battle that we were talking about, Coop, when that yellow came out, Doucette taking away the spot from Tyler Dalton didn't seem all that important until, again, that yellow comes out, because now Doucette's going to be on the inside of row 4, Dalton to the outside. That could prove a critical moment if Jacob Porter could make something happen from P9, because he'll be, again, inside of row 5. Perfect opportunity to go for the undercut into the corner.
Yeah, and I know Porter will do something if he can, if he's in the position. I've definitely seen him and watched some film earlier this week on some of these old races that these guys have done this year, and just saw Porter do something so he could get a win that I am imagining right now might happen again, just to get in the feature. And remember, this isn't the last chance these guys get. I think that's why Peterson was just did get fed up, is he knows he's got that second chance, but Porter has a good chance here to get in. But then you got to think about Tyler Dalton. He's got a good chance to secure it in too. From being on this outside, it's not a terrible place to be, because typically you want to have that aggressive driver right on your bumper. If you're just a little bit wiser than he is, you might go a little higher and get that momentum.
We'll see how it plays out. Going to be 6 laps to go. And a race down to the end of heat race number 2. Andrew Wooten once again clear from front. What's going on in P8 though? You see the 19 machine can't come through, and there's going to be problems way in the back. Quick yellow.
Looks like Scott Gaffarini has found his way into the outside wall off of turn 2. Saw another car shoot up to the wall as well. Looks like a big overcorrect by the driver of the number 38, and he also ended up collecting Oliver Cordell. So 2 quick incidents for Cordell, but this one not of his own making. Just loose getting into turn 1 there for Gaffarini, and he couldn't gather it back up, and there's the cause for our next yellow. We're running out of laps here, Evan. I don't know if we'll get this thing back underway or not.
This one might end under yellow. There is a chance maybe you get one more lap out of this thing. Oliver Cordell going to be given the end of the longest line penalty for initiating that contact with Scott Gaffarini in the corner. Also close to being able to hang on to it, but got bounced around a couple of times and ended up in a strange place with that back pit exit on the exit of corner number 2. He's ended up at the outside wall there. I've seen cars end up into the wall there on the real-world side of things. Good news here is you just put the sim racing car in reverse, and it's not as scary of a situation as it could possibly be. If we do see a restart, Austin Coop, it is going to be single file coming to it. I think there's a chance we might get a lap out of this thing. Tyler Dalton saying, no, I'm good. I'll take the P8. We'll see how it plays out. All we can do is wait and watch.
I have a good feeling we're going to get that 1 lap restart, and it just depends. We will pretty much be watching that battle between Porter and Dalton, and maybe someone else gets into the mix there as well. Can't imagine it's going to get too out of hand, but it is single file, so if it happens, he's going to be right there. There is not going to be too wide battling at all, so there's going to be plenty of room to do it, and there's going to be plenty of excitement if we do get this restart, but we will have that 1 lap restart, I'm being told.
Hearing that we are going to have an opportunity maybe to get 1 lap out of it. No, the lights stayed on top of the pace car. So this time by, we will take the white flag, and just now getting confirmation from the tower that this is going to end under caution flag conditions. Right on that cusp, but again, when you don't have any lap cars, you think maybe you can get away with a quick yellow and an opportunity to go back into rain flag conditions, but they did not catch the pace car until they were well inside of what was 5 laps to go. The yellow came out at 6 to go, had to go all the way back around essentially to the back straightaway, and it is not enough time to restart this one. So Andrew Wooten, second driver to go pole the checkers. He'll win heat race number 2. He, along with Richard Reagan, Wade Tashida, Connor Blaze, John Lade, Ryan Doucette, TJ McGuire, and Tyler Dalton are headed to the main event Meanwhile, Jacob Porter, Scott Austin, Jay Beasley, Joe Burchett, Jeremy Watkins, along with Peterson, Novosad, Cordell, and Gaffarini. Those drivers all going to have to deal with that LCQ as we come and now complete Heat Race 2.
You think the racing was exciting in these heat races, just stick around for the LCQ because it's going to be elevated to a whole new level, because that's your last chance for romance if you get through into that one to get into the main event. So those guys that didn't make the cut here, this is it. They got to get it done. So we're not done seeing contact. We're not done seeing yellows. I can promise you that much. And I'm probably not done smiling because of all of it. I'll tell you that much right now.
And we'll give the drivers a quick opportunity to catch their breaths as they get set to go racing for the LCQ. It is also going to be the same length of those heat races that you saw earlier. It'll be 25 laps total distance. Trying to confirm when the green flag is going to come out of this one. In fact, we'll just hop right to it with cars headed down trackside. It's your LCQ. Again, some drivers from those heat races not going to be in this one. All the drivers are welcome to race in this event. However, it is only drivers competing full-time in these super late model part of the Cars eSport Tour, paying drivers who have been here all season that have the ability to give it another shot and go racing at the LCQ. That's where we sit right now, so let's go trackside. Let's take a look at your LSR TV starting grid. The way it sits now, looks like the driver's going to be lined up on the outside of the racetrack, and as they roll, looks like the number 3 of Jacob Porter going to be on the outside of row number 1. Essentially, that should give the lead position to the 87 of Robbie Bundon, but Porter, Austin, and Bundon out there. Jay Beasley, Sean Cross, first 5 cars.
It also looks like that Robbie Bundon will start, or Jay Beasley will start from the 6th position with Robbie Bundon, Joe Burchett starting in the 8th place. Sean Cross will start from the 9th position, then 10th place will start Jeremy Watkins.
Now, it looks like the running order might be a little bit messed up from what we're getting on our telemetry here. I'm just looking out and seeing whose name we haven't mentioned yet. Looks like Christian Peterson, Todd Novosad, Scott Gaffarini there in the back as well. So we'll get the timing squared away here as these guys get sorted out. But yeah, got a last chance qualifier. These guys are going to be beating and banging. Pace car makes that hard left-hand turn, Evan. Let's turn these things loose. Let's go.
Same rules, 25 lap, going to be total distance. 4 drivers are going to advance. There is a caveat with that we'll point out because Scott Gaffarini does have a provisional, but it is time to go LCQ racing with the Cars eSport Tour at the Bullring. And the first real challenge we've had all night in a battle for the race lead outside Porter, trying to hold off the charge from Robbie Bundon on the inside of the racetrack. It's not going to happen. The 87's got him.
Not for long, though. Porter gave him a bump right on the swing back, but it looks like Porter did not get his car tucked down into turn number 2 and definitely lost the 87 to Robbie Bundon. And Robbie Bundon has had some of the worst luck I've seen in all of CEA's history, and for him to lead the race, he's just got to hope that someone doesn't take him out. And he's got one of the drivers that will definitely do it right behind him. Porter's going to stick the nose in on the inside, and Porter's going to be side by side with Robbie Bundon looking for that lead, but he messes up just a little bit right there.
Does make that little bit of a mistake, and we'll see if that opens up the door. Although still it is Bundon, Porter, the 5 of Austin, and the 83 of Sean Cross. Although that final transfer position is under attack in this Sim Marketing Solutions LCQ. How about the charge on the inside for the 26 of Joe Burchett? He'll move into P4, and just as quickly as he gets that spot, here comes Christian Peterson. Slice it on the inside.
A lot of great action here as these top 4 try to sort themselves out. Christian Peterson, I highlighted him just a few minutes ago, a guy with a lot of speed, got wrapped up in an incident in that second heat race, but showing why he is a guy that should be considered a serious contender for this thing, getting a great run through the field, as now Robbie Bundon went from the penthouse to the outhouse, back to 3rd, just like that, as these guys start to fight amongst themselves. Now Peterson to the inside through 3 and 4. Move Christian Peterson up to 3rd, Robbie Bundon back to 4th. He's got to hold on to that thing if he's going to move on.
Robbie Bundin had a little bit of saving grace because, again, he would have been initially slated to start on the inside of what was going to be row number 4, but the 3 drivers who would have started in front of him, not full-time Cars eSport Tour drivers, therefore not eligible for the LCQ. He got a great boost up into the front row, almost got a chance at a race lead in this thing, and now he's going to have to hold off that number 26. Here comes Joe Burchett, the transfer spot, and that move going to be for P4 in front of us. Contact for the race lead as the 3 of Jacob Porter is out of the way. I think he just got loose on his own. Porter slides to P3, so a lot going on up front.
Porter definitely has a loose setup, and he's not only going to lose that lead, he might lose that transfer spot to the number 87 of Robbie Bundin, who he fought so hard with earlier to get the lead. Now they're going to still be side by side for that position, and the top 4 or the top guys in front of them look like they have a little bit more speed than them. And so for those top 5, now you can really throw a number 6 in there of Sean Cross. This is really the battle. Everyone else behind them, they've got to hope for a caution or just somebody who has a big mistake, because this big group right here, they're kind of spreading their wings. They're really flying away. And Robbie Bundin, the number 3 of Porter, and Sean Cross, they're the ones to watch unless you're going to watch for that lead, which looks like Christian Peterson will be contesting for here pretty soon.
You'll see as he's been charged into the field. I'm sure, David, this is what he was imagining happening in that heat race earlier, but again, found himself in a little bit of a roadblock situation. He's been able to move up into P2. Again, that 5 of Scott Austin is your race leader. The car in front of them, Scott Gaffarini. Again, actually, the last car on the lead lap, and a big slide by the 5. Scott Austin can't hang on, and he'll hand it over to Christian Peterson, who goes to the race lead. Now, Burchett wants to take away second. That is the second time in a row a battle for the race lead has been decided by a big mistake by the race leader down at that end of the racetrack.
Is it pressure? Is it nerves? What is it that's about these guys getting loose on their own with a guy right on their quarter panel or their rear bumper there? Christian Peterson, I was just about to say, really needs to be patient and not put himself in a bad spot to beat himself. And no sooner was I about to say it than the lead just got handed over to him, and now he's running away with it. Swap for second now. As well as Scott Austin really got to be upset with himself for giving away the lead, getting the tires hot, and now he's going to have to hold on for another 10 laps as Joe Burchett moves up to the second position. So there you go, cream rising to the top here, but Christian Peterson setting sail out front.
And if Scott Austin's feeling bad about it, you know Jacob Porter's feeling bad about it, because he did the exact same thing at that same spot down in 3 and 4 only a couple of laps earlier. He has now tumbled to P5 in the overall standings. That's going to hurt him, and now a big slot off of the corner. This time it is Gaffarini way kinds of sideways, and maybe a little bit of trying to get out of the way, but also way out of control in turn 2. He'll hang on, but that was almost bad. Great driving experience, Coop, by him to be able to just dive down low, use that wide inside of the racetrack to hang on to it. If he snapped back up in front of traffic, it would have been a mess with top 5 cars.
Oh yeah, definitely, and this track has a lot more room than a lot of others with how banked it is. So really, what everyone else has to do if they're in the top 4. So if you're talking about Peterson, Burchett, Austin, Bundin, just hang on. And I think there's some other spots up for grabs too. So what these guys really need to do is just make it to the end of the race and just put their best foot forward from here on out and just keep their car clean, because there's a good chance that some of these guys will make it even if they're not having their best performance tonight.
Coming down to the end of this one, inside of 5 laps to go in your Sim Marketing Solutions last chance qualifier. Christian Peterson, a fantastic charge from 12th to 1st position to get himself out to the race lead. Now you're seeing a little bit of action with the 5 of Scott Austin trying to dispose of lap car Todd Novosad. Would have given an opportunity for maybe a Robbie Bundin to try to close back in, but after a hectic first 5-10 laps, the rest of this one should be able to end relatively quietly as the white flag is in the air for the 23 of Christian Peterson. He'll come around. He's the first driver to win a race tonight that didn't start on a pole. He nearly started all the way at the back. Christian Peterson, your LCQ winner from the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And then you also have, of course, Joe Burchett coming home in the number 2 position. Scott Austin, Robbie Bundin, the top 4. Should be everybody advancing into the main event. This would essentially just ends up being where do you qualify for that main event. The drivers who have to complete 2 extra laps to verify those times giving race control the ability to correct anything, but everybody's going to hold their positions, complete the laps. Checkered flag came out 2 laps ago. The official end of the race going to be this time by. No worries for Christian Peterson with a great run.
Yeah, most definitely. He definitely took a stride back in the right direction from the last heat. Sorry there, David, but he definitely took a much better approach and made it definitely something that he could start a little higher up in the grid.
So what we will do is we'll get an updated look at the complete running order when we get back, and we'll let you know who's going to start where when we go racing, because the American Pool Supply 200 is next. We'll step aside. We'll come back to the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in just a moment. You're watching the Cars eSport Tour on LSR TV and the iRacing eSports Network. Peterson, the LCQ winner.
Hi, I'm Michael Conti, driver of the number 5 4Front Chevy, and you're watching iRacing Live.
And welcome back live to the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Just wrapping up our Sim Marketing Solutions heat races at an LCQ. The field is now set for the American Pool Supply 200 at the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Happy that you're with us at LSR TV and the iRacing eSports Network. Evan Pasoko, Austin Coop, David Shieldhouse upstairs with Cisco Scaramouche in the production trailer. Christian Peterson winning that last one as we get set, Coop, to go racing for 125 laps. And courtesy of our friends at Sim Marketing Solutions, a total of $160 in the purse up for grabs. $40 for your race winner, spread across all the way down to $10 if you come home inside of the top 10. Should be a fun one. We've had a couple of teasing moments of maybe what we can see when we go full-fledged. A lot of the action's been concentrated around those transfer spots, but now everybody's fighting for every position.
Yeah, not everyone made it in. You know, we have around 10, a little under 10 drivers who did not make tonight's feature event. And we'll get the grid and you'll be able to see who did make it. But something really interesting is that we'll have an invert of 9 here on the start, and that's really cool because the sim does that. That's not something that the race director is able to do after the sim has already started. So everything's been set in motion ever since. That's why we kind of been clicking this off. It's been quick, fast, and very easy to follow. At least I think for me. But I think that's where it will really start to see the intensity. Is that who it got inverted, and why that's going to really be a big impact for those guys up front.
And as the warm-up session draws to a close, we get to see these late model stocks at action, David. Of course, we see both the late model stocks, the super late models. Big difference between the two that we'll see both in action next time the Cars eSport Tour is out is the fact that you're obviously racing the Monte Carlo SS and not the SLM, but fixed setups. The cars weigh a significant amount more, and they've got a lot less horsepower, 370 horsepower and 3,100 pounds in these things. So we have a pretty full grid. Looks like 20 drivers getting set to grid up, and we'll go down in a moment and take a look at them. About 125 laps, a lot different than the short sprints we've had.
It's going to be more about patience. You won't see probably, excuse me, the big desperate moves that we saw in the heat races and the LCQ. These guys know they got a little bit more time, but as a race car driver, you're always wanting to stay with the guy in front of you. And if you're not the leader, you don't want to be behind somebody, especially here in these short, small confines of the Bullring in Las Vegas. So guys are going to lose their patience. They got to win the war within their own mind to not take themselves out by causing a yellow, which kicks them to the back of the field, or getting caught up in somebody else's mess. There's a lot at play here, but over the course of 125 laps, really this is in the hands of the drivers and the guys that are the true wheelmen who can take care of their stuff, both the tires and the sheet metal, and keep the mass between their ears on point. Those are the guys that are going to go to the front.
So with that top 9 invert, the running order going to be a little bit different than than what you would expect maybe to see as the drivers get out onto the racetrack. But the way that the front row is going to look, at least, is it'll be AJ Rogers and Connor Blaze on row 1, Dawson Fletcher, Wade Cheetah row 2. You got Brandon Wilkinson, and it looks like as well the 40 machine of Richard Reagan Jr. On the outside, that'll be row 3, Reed Rundell, Andrew Wooten, row 4. And then, of course, at the very back at row 5, John Lyday, Ryan Doucette. Of course, full running order going to be going across the top of your screen. Once this race goes green, all of those numbers will update. But what matters now is that the pace car is going to make that sharp left-hand turn down to the safety of the pit lane. And the field is going to be in the hands of the 17 of AJ Rogers. 125 laps to come at the Jewel in the Desert as the 17 machine gets set to put the right foot down. We go green in the American Pulse Supply 200.
Side by side, they go into turn number 1. Looks like the number 17 of AJ Rogers is going to get a really good advantage here, but looks like second place contested here by Dawson Fletcher. 57 makes a very big mistake there in the corner. He's going to lose that position easily with the number 70 of Brandon Wilkinson taking that as well. So 57 goes from 2nd to 4th immediately here on the start.
Not a good start for him as they tuck back in line. Fletcher's going to end up P2 through all of that. Wilkinson, and then you do find Connor Blaze, Reed Rundell, Matt Tucker, and other cars. One driver on the pit lane a little bit late, get it out onto the racetrack. We'll see who that is in just a minute, but Rogers in the meantime trying to defend for the race lead. The car late getting on track was Joe Burchett, who is just now getting into that position. So I think the drivers racing like they know it's a longer one. Contact back in the pack though. The 89 of Jeremy Adams gets loosened up. The 77's got problems, and as I'm about to say, the drivers may be racing like they know they've got an extra 100 laps. It all breaks out with a lot of contact mid-pack.
I was just about to say the same thing, Evan. These guys, just when you think you got them figured out, they go and prove you wrong. But that's race car drivers for you. They're impatient, and they see a hole, and they want to fill it, especially at this small track. You got to get to the bottom, and Jeremy Adams in the number 89 had his hands full for a couple of laps there as guys were beating and banging on him, move him up out of the way. And you don't want to run a guy over, but still, we're clicking off 15.5-second laps here. These laps go by quick, so you got to get going while the getting's good, and Jeremy Adams heading the wrong way. These guys are sort of single file, but looking through the field now, a couple of good side-by-side battles, especially for the second place position.
and it's on the inside of the racetrack. Brandon Wilkinson is going to work himself around that spot. It looked like there might have been a little bit of contact off of the corner to usher the 17 up and get a little bit more space, but Wilkinson does take P2, and Connor Blaze also second time tonight sees somebody having some issues and tries to pick up on that as he works to work his way back forward. So AJ Rogers falls to P4 after leading a couple of laps early in this one. A little bit of a gap, then you'll find the likes of Matt Cucker, Reed Rundell, Andrew Wooten, Richard Reagan, all of those drivers at a pack, but I believe, just a quick scan top to bottom, besides Carpenter and Dalton back in 19th position for a brief moment, we single file out.
But for how long will they stay single file is, you know, just like I said, these guys seem to show a little bit of patience, and then you see them go 2 and 3 wide like they are right now. Andrew Wooten sees an absolute brawl behind him between Reed Rundell and, who is that, Richard L. Reagan Jr. in the number 40, side by side for about the 7th position. Really close door handle to door handle racing there as we are on lap number 12 of 125. So things moving along at a good pace here, and I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. No yellows, clean and green up to this point, but still some really hard racing.
And it's what we expect to see. Again, some of these drivers have just kind of played the conservative route of taking it easy. If you started P5 at one of those heat races and nobody was knocking on your bumper, it was pretty uneventful. You just hold your position. There's really no incentive to go up there, dice it up with the guys in front of you. And as long as, again, you're in front of that P8 spot and in the LCQ, you were really just fighting for your starting position. In this one, that was all that mattered, but a yellow and a car on the inside, or turn number 4, the 5 of Scott Austin, turned around on the inside. This one looked like it was all on his own.
That's exactly right, Evan, and he actually could have had a little bit of contact, but whoever was behind him was very aware of what was going on, and it was exactly what happened in his in the consolation, where he had lost basically the nose of the car, it looked like, and then the rear end just followed suit, and yeah, just lost it on his own. So if he's able to go down pit road, which I'm not sure that they're able to take tires, I haven't. I'll have to take a look at that, but he might be able to do something to that car. If not, at least try and do a different brake bias if it's a fixed setup. But there's not really a whole lot you can do if that's all he can do. He's just got to be really patient with the car, because the tires really should not be that worn in that far yet, and he still has over 100 laps to go.
Well, what we saw as well is, in his case that you referenced to earlier as well, David, we saw Austin spin from the lead in one of the previous races. We saw 2 drivers give up the race lead earlier in this just by getting out of control down at that end of the racetrack, specifically 3 and 4.
Sometimes you got too much on your mind or not enough on your mind when you're a race car driver, and if you're out front, you're trying to hit your marks, but sometimes you lose focus, and this is a game of inches, especially at this track. We've seen, as you mentioned, Evan, a number of guys sort of get a little bit too close and go over that inside lane and upset the balance of the car, and maybe, you know, for Scott Austin, he's really just not comfortable with the setup, or he's just got something going on that's putting the car on a pin's edge, but just not the level of comfort you'd expect to see from some of these guys that look very secure in the way the car is handling. So when you see a couple of incidents from one guy, you got a couple of things to question there, but he'll get it sorted out. Still some laps to make things up, the ability to get back as he was waved around the pace car. So he's going to be back on the lead lap. More than 100 laps to go here, so not all hope is lost. But if you're him, you're really just trying to figure out, what am I doing wrong where I'm losing control of my race car?
And obviously, if it's something that you're concerned about with the tire scoop, that's not going to get any better. If you're having issues on a 25-lap heat race and you're having issues 18 laps into this, then I can promise you it's not going to get better on you as we work into the night. Looks like the light's out on top of the pace car, should say. So pace car is going to be in this time. Number at 106 laps to go. As the pace car dives down and in this time, the 7-2 Austin Fletcher going to be in control for the first time this evening. Brandon Wilkinson up to the outside of the front row. Let's see what the number 70 machine can do. American Ethanol, green flag again. Not a good job for the 7-2 Fletcher. It's Wilkinson outside, challenging for the race lead. Some contact mid-pack behind them, but side by side contact as they battle for P1.
Fletcher sends it hard down in the corner and gets that lead back from Wilkinson. Wilkinson only led for that brief period, lets it back to him, and now he's back on the inside. There goes the 70 right to his inside, and he's going to be very close to his door. And I think the 70 has the better car at this part of the race, and the 71 I think knows that too. And so here goes Brandon Wilkinson straight to the lead. Now the 57 of Connor Blades, he's back right into this fight for the lead, and there's a lot of drivers, a whole host of drivers right behind that also want a piece of this. And if Wilkinson can just get a little bit farther away from these guys, it doesn't look like that's going to happen because Connor Blades is going to win that battle for second. So now it's on for the lead and back.
On for the race lead, and from there on to back, it starts up front, trails throughout as Wilkinson was able to win out of that one. First fight now, Fletcher and Cucker in the 60 Auto Machine coming up on the inside of the racetrack. As noted, your current late model stock tour leader, I should say, with the Cars eSport Tour here weekly on LSR TV and the iRacing eSports Network. So no surprise that he is having some success in these cars, having entered to this point in the season already with 3 trips to victory lane in these cars specifically. Fletcher not really wanting to give up on him, but for a moment the top 5 settle down. First fight now is Christian Peterson, another one of our Wednesday night regulars. He'll take a spot away from Wade Cheetah.
I was watching him cut through this field like a hot knife through butter. He is up to the 7th position after winning the LCQ race, already up to 7th. I got a good feeling about him. I like the pace that he's showing. He's showing a lot of patience to match that pace as well. So a couple of P words working in his favor as he gets up to the 7th position now for Peterson. A lot of alliteration there going on, and I'll find a way to work that in later. But just showing great race pace and racecraft right now to get by these guys cleanly and not cause any more incidents. So now he's got his sights set on that top 6 as they're all single file. Got a little bit of a ways to go to catch up to Richard L. Reagan Jr. and the number 40, but guy to keep an eye on there, Christian Peterson.
No doubt, as Peterson's already made up 10 positions. Again, his finishing positions earlier this evening is what put him at such a disadvantage in this one. And of course, going to be the not the first time this evening, after you saw what he was able to do in that LCQ, that he's had to make up multiple positions. Of course, though, that heat race finish put him behind the 8 ball. He showed he can pass cars earlier. He's not quite there yet, though, but the yellow's going to help Sean Cross in the number 83 as the driver around. Looks like that one is coming at a turn number 4. This time, there was some contact. I think he actually got into a couple of cars in a battle.
There's a lot of action going on in that area of the track there, Evan, from a variety of drivers, and I think this one was the final straw for these guys. And he gets into the that looks like to be the number 31 of Brad Carpenter, and that just slowed him up enough there the 5 could get to him. And so that is going to be on Sean because he drove it hard into the corner, and basically the number 5 was ready to go. And kind of like we saw earlier in the race, although this one is going to be able to put on that driver who put himself in that position. Earlier it was Christian Peterson who got the penalty because he was the aggressor. This time it's going to be on the other way around because he had put himself and basically doored the 31 hard and then was already out of control. But something I want to note is that these brake pads on a lot of these drivers, I'm starting to look at them, and the farther back I go through the field, they look redder and redder the farther back I go through the field. So these guys up front aren't using the brakes as much as those guys towards the back.
And we see wave around coming up at the outside of the racetrack. Joe Burchett going to get what is his laps back, but certainly those drivers towards the back end of the field with those glowing rotors want to get through the pack and obviously drive it a lot more aggressively. That's why you saw the incident come from the fact that, you know, you just got more cars back there. Maybe a little bit less as far as how much of a speed difference there is car per car, so it's a lot easier said than done of just getting away from people. And probably even when you settle into some of the longer runs we're going to see this evening, David, some of the best action going to be back with those specific drivers.
I'm always looking for the action on the track, and you don't have to look far to find it here at the Bullring at Las Vegas. So the guys that are using their brakes and heating up the rotors, and those are the guys that may have a little bit of trouble stopping for those corners later on into the race, and then they slam into the back of somebody else. And, you know, we don't want to see yellows. We like to see green flag racing, but again, it goes back to taking care of your equipment, and the guys that are up front are the guys that take care of their equipment really well. I really like seeing the fight for the lead on the previous restart where the outside lane was really able to get going. A lot of respect being shown there between Dawson Fletcher on the outside lane, but eventually the inside lane did win out as expected, but still these guys shown themselves to be very courteous, and that's what it takes to get green flag racing. And as I say that, let's go back to green flag racing.
Pace card added in, still 90 laps to go in the American Bull Supply 200. A lot of racing still to come here at the Bullring. The 70 machine once again, he gets to control this restart on the inside. Is where he is this time. He was topside last time. Made a pass up on the outside to make that move to get to the race lead. This time we'll see what Wilkinson can do whilst pinched on the bottom of the racetrack. Connor Blaze giving him a pretty good run for his money, pinching down up top, and the 70 is pulling at a half a car length advantage this time. Back down into 1 and 2. Quick caution, problems behind us, and a lot of smoke and a handful of cars going to be involved in this one. We're still wrecking as Novosad gets tagged by Scott Gaffarini. A lot going on the front straightaway here. And it all started, I believe, it was contact with that looks like the 12 car.
Yeah, the 12 car got just pushed right in the outside wall by the 27. He cut down on him where I'd say they maybe met in the middle, but it looks like the 27 was running the same line for the most part. The 12 had come up, and 27 had nowhere to go, and it just threw him right in the wall, and that just created a barrier for everyone behind. And I don't think there was a single driver that didn't get a piece of this. That was behind them, maybe 2 or 3 drivers, but oh my gosh, big carnage. There's a couple drivers who just completely stopped in their tracks, and then they still got into it because some drivers are a little bit more impatient to be as a wreck. And my gosh, yeah, big wreck on the front end is going to take a lot of these drivers out.
I think Ricky Harden might have been one of the only cars to get through that one without damage, but you're right, some drivers, it evolved to the accident because they were a part of the initial contact, and of course the cars immediately behind them just nowhere to go, and that outside line got blocked, but a couple of cars came in way hot down low, and that's why by the time the yellow came out and we looked over that way, there were cars still wrecking all the way down the front stretch into turn 1.
That's about as big a wreck as you will see here at the Bullring, and it's just a horrible feeling as a driver when you think you got it missed. You dive down to the inside where there's nobody that you can run into, and then all of a sudden the track cleans itself down there and cars come flying across out of nowhere seemingly and shoves you into the inside wall. It's just an awful feeling, and it really took out a lot of guys there, but that's the way it goes sometimes, especially when you get a guy off the corner that just hooks another driver into the wall. Where are these guys going to go? There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide here at the Bullring, and now we're a little bit lighter in driver count, so that was a big one, and we're 40 laps into this 125 lap event. Had our first big one. Hopefully that's the last one for the night.
And a very quick caution already going back to green flag conditions with 41 laps complete. Brandon Wilkinson going to be the first driver to take a restart for the race lead 2 times in a row so far this evening, but it is Connor Blaze at the outside of the racetrack with a good run to the start-finish line. The outside can work, but you got to get right on it, and the 70 machine kind of gets that positioning back.
Big issues back. Yeah, big issues. Looks like Wade Cheetah's involved. Charlie Melvin got turned around, and these guys are not done yet here, guys. And I think that just a few guys this time, but Wade Cheetah got knocked around, and I think that's actually not as bad as it was supposed to be. I think it was. It looks like Wade Cheetah had gotten some help from behind, and he couldn't help getting into somebody else, and it looked like Charlie Melvin.
And Will Dravicki also got hit 6 times on the way down to corner number 1. There was a checkup. He got into the back of the 15. 17 hit him. He got hit into the back of the 15. 17 hit him. That happened one more time. And that's where things get a little bit out of control. And then, of course, it was the 15 who ended up losing it. That's where you saw that 54 slide down. What a job. If we can get a shot of that number 5 car, Scott Austin, pretty much lined up to T-bone the 54. He went down to that apron that we accredited Gaffarini with using earlier, all that space to avoid a wreck. Well, the 5 went down there. All of a sudden, a car is sliding in front of him, and somehow that wasn't a big hit.
Gonna need a new pair of shorts for the driver of the 5 after that one. That is, it's about as close as it gets. He's very lucky to get through there. And really, it's just, I see a lot of these guys trying to save these cars when they start to get sideways, and it's a very classic overcorrect. and it ends up making a really bad deal instead of just spinning it out to the inside. And it's sort of a natural reaction when the car gets loose. You try to correct it, try to bring it back. You turn the steering wheel to the right a little bit to bring control back to the race car. But these late models, they just respond so quickly. They have very quick steering boxes on them, and it just snaps back to the right in front of the whole field. So lucky more cars weren't collected there, as it was very, very close. But dang, just as soon as they had a huge wreck, you'd think these guys would calm down just a little bit. But still, lap 45 of lap 125 showing no chill.
The first time really we've seen that kind of a restart tonight. We've certainly seen a lot of side-by-side, 2 wide, 3 wide, no doubt, but we haven't really seen a huge checkup like that. Difficult to see something like that in some of the heat races earlier on this evening, but again, full car count at 20 cars. Certainly that it's something that can happen on the inside of the racetrack. That's exactly what we saw. Longer yellow this time around as we start to tiptoe in towards the halfway point in this American Bull Supply 200. Again, you're watching the Championship Esports Association's Cars Esport Tour at LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network live from the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. 47 laps down of 125 in tonight's feature. Pace car back in. Connor Blaze has given Brandon Wilkinson a couple of jabs up top. Let's see if the 57 can make a serious charge for the race lead here. Get it off to the inside for Wilkinson, who did not lead at the line. He did. He got him by 1/1000th of a second to the restart. And again, he's very good on the inside on 1 and 2. He'll pull clear for the race lead. The fight is now on for second. Here comes Matt Cocker, just like that, into P2.
It looked like Connor Blaze had actually set up for a good counter in turn number 2, but I think he just went too high at the track. He's looking for that momentum. It didn't happen. Now he's got Christian Peterson on his outside. He started in the 5th position on that restart. He's looking to get 3rd right there. Oh, big issues back in turn 3 and 4. And oh, man, we got a little bit of a mess again. So 3 quick cautions, and we might have another driver expiring their car, but looks like the 87 and the number 30 get involved in this one together. And I'm not sure. It looks like the 2 drivers behind came at the same rate of speed, so it's possible that the 30 started braking much earlier than anticipated.
Wouldn't be the first time. I think he might have been a little bit scared because remember the yellow just before this, he drove into the back of the car in front of him and then was knocked around like a ping pong ball. So it certainly looks like Dravicki got onto the gas, or onto the brakes, I should say, sorry, a little bit early, got tapped by that 43 when she had run down. It kicked him in front of Robbie Bundon, and that's where the 30 went sideways, and it got ugly from that point. I believe the penalty is going to be given to Reed Rundell by nature of being the driver who initiated the contact from behind. But if I'm Rundell, tough pill to swallow as he drops to the back.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, Evan. That is a tough pill to swallow because if I'm him, if I'm Rundell, I'm not expecting that big checkup or getting to the brakes that early. You know, you run behind these guys lap after lap, you sort of get an idea of where their braking points are, where somebody should be expected to hit the brakes. And when it happens that much sooner, these guys are still going pretty quick around this racetrack. They're not going slowly. It's over 100 miles an hour. There's just no time to react to that. So when something goes against what you're expecting or setting yourself up for, it's going to lead to trouble. And we saw it right there. And for Reed Rundell, big blow to his chances here as we're now working lap 52, coming to 53, running out of time to make up for mistakes on the racetrack.
Certainly running out of time. We're not yet at the halfway point, but you figure we're talking a lot at the start of this race, Coop, about how quickly these laps go by. Well, you get a lot of yellows, you get a lot of restarts. It doesn't seem like that, but in an instant, we could have a quick 30, 40 lap run in just a matter of minutes. All of a sudden, you're at the end. So you've got guys like Christian Peterson gone 17th to 3rd, guys like a John Lade, maybe a little bit more quiet than what we've seen out of Peterson, having gone 10th to 5th. Those guys in a fantastic position to take advantage of a run like that.
Yeah, and I think this top 5, like you said, they have been pretty courteous to each other. But I feel we're going to get a pretty long green flag run here. If not, I feel like race control will probably put us under the single file bit here. But yeah, I think we're going to get some green flag runs here just because those cautions have come out and have kind of injured a lot of cars. Not the guys up front, but they have not been the cause. And that kind of typically happens as we get going back to green here.
Come back to green flying conditions, and But the 70 machine of Brandon Wilkinson just feels like he has to keep going through the motions. He goes green again outside of the racetrack, though. Matt Cocker was able to beat him to the start-finish line. Again, that's no longer Connor Blaze out there. Blaze in the 57 just trying to hang on the P4. In a side-by-side fight with John Lade, who's coming up the inside. And even the great Matt Cocker can't make some magic quite yet. Up at the outside of the racetrack, Wilkinson too good, protecting the bottom. Looks like he'll clear for P1.
Definitely the most spirited attempt that we've seen in making the outside lane work yet. And of course, if it wasn't going to be from Cocker, who else would it be from? Yellow flag flies once again. Another disabled vehicle in turns 3 and 4. Looks like that's going to be the number 77 of Ryan Doucette. Found himself spun around, facing the wrong way in turns 3 and 4. Possibly some contact there. Yes, indeed, from the number 87 of Robbie Bunden. So another contact leading to another yellow here on lap 56.
In the 77 was kind of out of sorts, almost got squeezed up into the outside wall, had lifted, and it was, you know, the 87 thinks he's got the spot. The 77 may have the right of way, if you will, to come back down onto the inside there. Two drivers meet, and that doesn't typically work out very well, so that contact again will bring us back under the caution flag here from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Again, still a tad bit shy of the halfway point in this American Pool Supply 200, but do want to give you this opportunity to say hi to everybody over at the American Pool Supply. Coverage of tonight's American Pool Supply 200 is brought to you by American Pool Supply, a wholesale distributor of pool and landscaping products. We serve pool maintenance, resorts, apartment complexes, and HOAs in the Las Vegas area. For more information, you can visit them on Facebook at American Pool Supply LV. For more information, not only proud title sponsor to this American Pool Supply 200 tonight, but if you're ever a regular viewer here at LSR TV, of course you'll know them as the title sponsor with the American Pool Supply Truck Series on Sunday evenings as well. So a good partner to have with them, and the Championship Esports Association, a big part in making a lot of this programming possible. I thought the pace car might have been coming down this time, not quite, so we work under the yellow again. Coop, what changes in the second half of this race? I think I'm with you with the fact that I do believe we are going to see that green flag stretch at some point. It might just be a question of when, although the more yellows we get, I'm starting to lean towards if.
Well, we are going to have the single file, as I alluded to earlier. I expect with 4 quick cautions that race control has their hand kind of put in front of them. But I think that's what's going to really bring this together. That doesn't mean we're going to stay single file for very long, but it does mean that we will at least start that way. And I think this will be a little bit easier for these guys to get settled in, and then they can start figuring out who's got the faster car and then play it by that way. But for the lane, I think it's a big deal because Matt Cocker will not be able to sport that outside lane until he's got the grip up.
Well, here where we'll see what a first-time single-file restart looks like for the Bullring. We go back green, obviously no challenge to the outside, thinking maybe somebody might swing low. What this will do is not only get us through those first couple of treacherous laps, but really, David, it spreads us out. If you're normal restarting P8 and would be on the outside of row 4, you're basically twice as far for the race leader now, so that spacing could be a big reason why this might be a good stretch of run.
It could be, but my opinion of the single file restart is it's a good reaction to a caution-filled race, but it also, like you said, puts these guys a little bit further away from the leader and makes them a little more desperate to make a move on a restart because, yeah, they got more guys in front of them to get through in a spatial sense. But seemingly it's having the right effect right now as everyone's single file. I don't really see any bonsai moves happening just yet as we were side by side for the 10th position, but if it has the right effect, I'm all for it. Just sometimes, especially later in the race, a single file restart can really lead to some crazy antics.
So far, so good, though, as everybody is spread out, and a challenge for the race lead. That jinx is on me. Contact behind. It's Scott Gaffarini again involved in this one, and got a little bit of help to say the least, and tough to say what the 43 was shooting for on this one. Well, you look at the replay. Reed Rundell kind of try to get to the inside of the 38 Coop. Also, maybe trying to get in front of the 54 of Charlie Melvin. There was a lot going on there, not a lot of real estate, and whatever the case was, it did not work out.
I don't even think he thought he was there. I think he thought he was clear of him because he wasn't there whenever he was out of turn number 2, and so when he gets on that front straightaway, he thinks, all right, I got some guy in frent of me, and I'm trying to squeeze in between them, and then he was there. Nothing more you could really say about that, and I think Reed just needed to I think patience has got to be a little bit more on the priority side for some of these guys, because that move wasn't going to work even if he did make it and he wasn't there. He would still have to woe the car back down and before it got to turn 4, so he could not swing that turn and get him in the same corner. So patience has got to be key for these guys right now.
See if they find some as this race goes on. With that, though, we have crossed the halfway point tonight from the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Let's take a quick opportunity to look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA to the World of Outlaws, and so many more. Lap number 69, Brandon Wilkinson is your race leader with Matt Cucker in the number 2 spot. He's joined by Christian Peterson, John Lyday, and Connor Blaze through the top 5. Andrew Wooten still holding strong into P6. You got Richard Reagan Jr. in 7th. Dawson Fletcher, P8. A big move for Joe Burgett. First time tonight he's entered the top 10. Behind him is our pole sitter AJ Rogers in that 10th spot.
Scott Austin finds himself in 11th, up from 19th position, so he's come a long way. Wei Cheetah's trying to recover from having some incidents earlier on in this race and finds himself 12th. Sean Cross finds himself 13th. 14th is Ricky Harden. Ryan Doucette 15th. Charlie Melvin 16th. 17th right now is Tyler Dalton. And you've got Robbie Bunden in 18th. 19th is Todd Novosad, and you've got Scott Gaffarini. He's going to be in the 20th position.
Reed Rundell, the guy we've seen in a few incidents lately, he finds himself back now in the 21st position after that last one. Brad Carpenter, he'll be in the 22nd position. And that's going to be it for your full field rundown there, Evan.
Look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com and sign up today. 54 laps to go as we get set to go back arena. But it's more no doubt that the single file restart, which is in effect once again, spread everybody out on that last attempt. Let's see if it makes a difference once more. The 69 is all over Brandon Wilkinson to turn 1, but the 70 machine unfazed and leads down the back.
And a lot of that had to do because Peterson was on him as well. I saw the 69 wiggle well before it, but here we go. Lead might be under change here with the number 69 going on the bottom. 70 is going straight to the top side, and we'll see which one of these drivers prevails here on the start. But Matt Cucker seems to really have the handle on his car. He's able to really make the bottom swing pretty well, and he gets the lap that time. And whether he proves that he's got the faster car, he definitely does. Turn 2 was the good corner for him, and number 70, Brandon Wilkinson. He might not have the car that he did earlier, as he just lost a 2nd position. Goes from the lead on that restart to 3rd, and maybe even going to fall to 4th here. And these cars slide through the corners.
You can see him pinched up on the outside of the racetrack. Not only is the 20 going to get him, I thought maybe the 2 is going to slot in as well. There's going to be contact as a lot of cars bounce off of each other. But it was a very smart move, I think, from Wilkinson. There was risk there. And again, you saw him almost get sent up and into the wall, but instead of trying to stay up on the outside of the 20 machine, David, you saw him get onto the brakes early, tuck back in line, and then effectively prevented Wooten from ducking down on the inside of him. Still got a shot to the bumper, but he stopped the bleeding at P4.
Yeah, I say we got to put his awareness rating somewhere in the 90s for a move like that. If we're going to compare it to Madden, that was the right thing to do. The risk was worth it because you saw he was shipping off positions wholesale, falling from the lead all the way back to 4th, and almost lost more there as we see more contact now between Lyday.
Better put
these guys are really going at it.
80. Put his awareness back down to 80 now.
A good call there. These are race car drivers are so opportunistic, and this really shows why. They see an opening, they're going to shoot for it, and now we all get to catch our breath as the yellow flag flies, Evan.
And this one is Sean Cross all the way at the back end of it, 21st position is where the yellow flag comes from. And if there was going to be a single car spin somewhere on track, I would guess turns 3 and 4. And if you agree with me, you got that one right. Sean Cross just lost it down at that end of the racetrack at least the 5th time. We've seen that happen to somebody tonight.
Yeah, I think that the handling on these cars is becoming just a lot harder as the race is going on. And funny enough, the restart will be double file here, so I think race control just deemed it wasn't the restart's fault for these cautions happening, and I don't think he's going to make a single car spin continue on with the single file trend. So we will have double file, so this will give guys more opportunities. We'll put them really close to each other once again. So I think the contrary to what you said, David, once we get this double file back, I think it's definitely going to be more antsy than anything. But if anything, this is what Matt Cucker did not want to see, because when he had to get the lead, he had to get on a single file. Now he's got Christian Peterson to his outside already at the start. Yeah, I think that's to him, that's probably crummy. To Peterson, it's a wonderful gift. And to anyone behind, they'll be loving to watch this. But with less than just getting around 50 laps to go, you've got to imagine that the teammates up front, first and second, they're probably not coordinating anything. They're on their own right now, and you got to think about the guys behind him. John Lyday doing a great job, 10th to 3rd. Peterson came from 17th because he won that consolation, but other than that, everyone else has typically been quite up there.
And you talk about those two names up front, Matt Cucker, Christian Peterson, 1 and 2 in the Championship Esports Association Cars eSport Tour late model stock standings coming into tonight. Matt Cucker 13 points ahead of Christian Peterson. Those two drivers combined for 5 wins in these cars on 2018 alone. And even in the super late models, which again not in action tonight, will be back when we return in a few weeks for round 10. Cucker first and Peterson third in the standings in those cars as well. So two drivers that are very well acclimated with one another and have no intentions of taking one another out. They tend to be able to walk that balance of being very aggressive and also respectable at the same time quite well. We'll see just how friendly they are when you're talking about the overall payout for tonight being over $160 in this single race. Maybe they will be a little bit more frustrated or defensive, maybe is the correct word to put it, with one another as they come side by side. We're back to 2x2 throughout the field, 84 laps down from Las Vegas. Green flag back in the air.
I remember Mike Skinner said he'd wreck his own mother to win his first Cup race. We'll see if Matt Cucker and Christian Peterson hold the same regard for one another to win $160. Side by side all the way around the racetrack. Looks like a high-speed formation lap. I love it. But Peterson cannot prevail on the high side.
Oh, the two-car. Big
problems. Look at that. Big wreck.
Andrew Wooten's the one who got sideways. Somehow that car is still driving as he leaves the fire and the flames behind him. But it was contact with he in the 57 on his inside. Blaze pushes up just a little bit. The 2 gets out of shape, but he comes back down after keeping it out of the wall. Gets both the 40 and the 71. One car spins high, takes out some cars. The other car spins low, takes out some cars. And it's Wooten through the dust up the middle, who somehow survives after an incident that arguably he started. He got helped around, but it was his car that was all over the racetrack at a turn 4.
You know, hindsight 2020, if the 40 doesn't react to the accident and go low, he might have missed it completely, and then the 2 may have gotten to the 40, no, not the 40, the 71. But I think that's just something you can't prevent, is the reaction. And I think that was something you were saying earlier, David, is the reaction that sometimes you get. But these guys were just inside of the money-paying positions. These guys are well out of it now, and that's hard to think about because now they're in the garage, they're at the very back of the field. I think that's a huge downer for them. It leaves the door open for a lot of other guys, but for them in particular, they had nothing really. There was no difference in paying position at that point for them since they were out of the top 5, and so at that point you got to think to yourself that I don't think it was overdriving, but these cars are getting out of hand. But they've had so many laps under caution. I'm surprised that they're still having that issue because the tires definitely have cooled down. There's no question about that. So I think maybe just driving a little too hard, or maybe these cars are just at this point with this much rubber from all of the heat and the consolation, just a lot of rubber is on the track.
And the dilemma now is, especially since we had an opportunity the last time to once again see a side-by-side restart, is we're no longer putt-putting around midway through this race, David. This restart's going to be coming up somewhere inside of 35 laps to go. That's the marker that we'll hit this time by. Can't really tell, guys, Just don't go for that spot. Take it easy, get to the end. We're at the end now, essentially. You're basically in that short sprint to the end distance, nearly at the 25 lap to go length. That's what we saw earlier with those heat races at the LCQ. So I don't think anybody's going to be heeded any advice to take it any easier from this point on.
I certainly wouldn't if I was one of these drivers. You know, it's the great double-edged sword. You got to run clean so you don't get shipped to the back for causing a wreck, but if you don't take that risk to make a move and gain a position, you're not really doing yourself any favors to try and win the race either. So you got to strike a fine balance as the laps wind down. You got to be smart, but you got to be aggressive. I don't know how you can be all those things and make it work, but that's what these guys are going to have to do as we come to this restart.
Pace car off and in. It could be one of the last restarts you'll see this evening. Side by side in the front row again. It's Christian Peterson head-to-head with Matt Cocker, the 69 on the inside. Advantage to the corner. The inside has been the place to be, but if someone's going to pull the rabbit out of the hat, why not Christian Peterson, who's still up top now, is trying to complete the pass, cannot do it. He's still there and he's pestering him, but I see a move coming from the inside line sooner rather than later, and he'd try to get in front of John Lyda before the 20 takes that spot away. He does.
That's definitely what I was about to say, is that the 20 was getting pretty close to being in that fight. I don't think the 20 car has the car that the two in front of him do, but it's very close if anything else, because you can see just losing just inches on every corner, and another caution is going to come out to slow this up, but the battle looks like we're going to have Andrew Wooten. Actually, my gosh, his car looks completely different now. Looks like it got banged up pretty bad here in the back straightaway.
I don't think karma's the right word, but I think he escaped death after he was in all kinds of trouble in turn 4 and was able to get out of that unscathed. That this time it was kind of a course correction, and you know, on the contrary, he's just running around. He gets sideways, gets up into the 70, and instead of driving away unharmed, he is up and he is on his lid on the back straightaway. Tough break for Wooten as he brings it down to the pit lane and tries to get that car fixed. He dodged the bullet last time, not this time.
2 full rollovers for Andrew Wooten, and if this were the Summer Olympics, he might get a 10 out of 10 for that one, but this isn't. It's a race, and that's not good news. The 2 car is going to be done for tonight. Andrew Wooten gave her a great run early on, showed some speed and was up front, but it's not going to materialize for him in the end. Like you said, Evan, you cheat death once, but not twice, and it came for him and got him this time.
Final destination complex, I think. So no changes up front and out, but again, another short run to the end, Coop. I'm no longer going to say that we're going to get a long green flag run to the end. I think now you get in a position where it's going to be a restart here and a restart there. And listen, that could be the difference maker for somebody like a Peterson or a Lyda to cause some chaos to make something happen. But I think now, certainly, headed into the final 25 laps, that, I mean, anything's possible. But if you're not top 5 right now, I think you're at a pretty long shot. I think you would have had to use the 97 laps that we've completed thus far to get in position, and certainly Peterson, Lyda, and Bennett all did exactly that. Even Cucker, who started 9th. The drivers who run 1, 2, 3, 4 right now started 9th, 17th, 10th, and 18th respectively, so all of the fast cars have had to make quite a trip to the front.
Yeah, and the good thing for them is they did it before all the chaos happened, and if they didn't, they got through it with a good amount of luck or skill, but yeah, the only person who started inside the top 5 that's still there is AJ Rogers, and he's in 5th place with Wade Cheetah, who's behind him once again. He had basically got really shuffled out, and he's really had to make his way back up there. And I think for the top 4, I think they'll still be hard on each other. I can't imagine them having any issues like we've been seeing. And then really this field is really shuffled up 5th on back, so it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen from here, but I'd say we hope for another green flag run, but I think we'd be kidding ourselves with the way this race has been going. And so you got to do really good on these restarts here.
No pressure, but still over $150 on the line to the top 10 finishers in this race. We go re-green again as we work now lap number 100. 125, just 25 to go the next time around. Again, you see that challenge from Christian Peterson up on the outside of the racetrack. He's able to keep it interesting for a lap or so, but you just can't get it done up there. We haven't seen somebody complete that top side yet tonight, and if it's going to happen, we'll have to wait at least one more restart, because Peterson looked like he was going to tuck in line there, though. Wasn't certain he could get the spot. John Lyda trying to come to the inside. He's there for P2.
He wanted to make the move work, Christian Peterson did, but just could not justify squeezing in there. He knew he'd get hit by the 20, and it was the right move to not force the issue. John Layday now working that preferred groove on the bottom. Christian Peterson only seeing Matt Hooker get smaller in the windshield there as the fight is on for second still. Peterson hanging tough on the outside, getting a good run off the corner. John Layday giving him some room to make it work. But eventually these guys are going to have to figure it out if they're going to try and chase down the leader. Can't run side by side and go anywhere fast.
It does tend to be difficult to do both of those at the same time, so someone's going to have to figure this out. Otherwise, it is going to be all Matt Kucker as he strolls off and into the sunset. Peterson finally wins out for P2, stubborn enough up top to not let John Layday get on by, so they'll remain 2-3. Joe Birch at 4th and AJ Rogers in 5th. That is where you'll find that fight because Wade Sheeta trying to get back into a top 5 position. Both of these cars been through the ringer tonight, and they're trying to right now fight it side by side with each other. Even Charlie Melvin wants to get on the action. This all again for 5th position. A little bit of a rub, and the 15 gets it.
Yeah, the 17 had kind of run down the track quite a bit. Oh my goodness, Slide Job City just went right in front of the 17, that being the 54 of Charlie Melvin, and now he's got the 77 to his outside, so it didn't work that well. I mean, he got in front of the guy who wanted to, but now he's got company, and wow, that was a great move if it was for the lead, but it wasn't, and now he's got to worry about the 17. He's right back to his rear bumper. That was a great move, but just not the right time, I think. If we had another lap to, or like, one lap to go, might have been the great move. But now it looks like AJ Rogers has Connor Blaze to his inside. Connor Blaze started second, and he's trying to get all these positions back that he had lost earlier too.
We'll see if he maybe tipped away anybody to give away a strategy. Maybe somebody else to try that move later on in this one. That 57 of Blaze does take the position away from the 17 of AJ Rogers, so Rogers not having a ton of fun on this restart, continues to go the wrong direction. Charlie Melvin going to lose one of the spots that he just took back as that 57 of Blaze comes up the inside. For all that's happened to Blaze tonight, that 57 not all that bad when it comes to the condition that it's in compared to some of the other cars out here tonight, and old friends reunited as it is again a fight between Melvin and Rogers. It's time for P8 crossover for the 54, tries to look low, he executes as well, and he goes for the undercut to turn 3. There's going to be contact, and there goes the 17. They'll be saved though as Tyler Dalton came up to the middle, actually hit the 17, and somehow because of that there's no wreck.
Classic sim racing at its finest right there. You hit the guy, they get spun in the left front, straighten them out, no caution, good to go. We're all saved. This is up, and now the caution flies. I had to say it, didn't I?
And it had to be the guy. It was still the same cause, though. It was the same driver we were just talking about, the 17.
Oh, the irony of it all. That's you just can't complete a sentence around here with these guys, can you? Nope.
Well, that one goes on you. I had my jinx earlier in the race. This one actually goes back, and we can wind the replay all the way back to turn 1. The 17 really wasn't that happy with the 70. I'm not really entirely sure why. It looked like that Wilkinson just came by on the inside, but they kind of rubbed on each other's doors into the quarter. Maybe the 17's thinking, what are you doing? I just lost my speed. You're not quicker than me, and tried to prove a point into turn 3, and not even close there as he dives it in and gets him in the door, and it's Wilkinson who gets sent around.
To be fair, he did have the nose, so it's kind of a hard deal, I think, because he had the nose for quite some time, and he was on the white line when they made contact. So I think that's actually when I started to look at it more, I thought the same thing at first, but I started like taking a couple looks at it, and I'm actually pretty unsure. But other than that, we've got like 10 laps to go or something like that, and these guys who are no longer in money-paying positions are kind of back in the field. So kind of make you scratch your head a little bit on some of these things, but the guys in front, they're happy, I think. Maybe not, because now they're bunched up together again. Matt Coker was thinking to himself, well, I got 10 laps to go, and now I no longer have to worry about having my position taken away. But I think he probably still has it. I think Coker's really got the race made at this point. He just has to really execute and get it done. Peterson hasn't shown the speed on the top side, and John Layday doesn't have quite the setup, the car to make it work, but I think the top 3 is going to stay as is here on this restart until the end of the race.
When you talk about those payout positions, we've said a big thanks to our friends at American Pool Supply for being the sponsor of tonight's American Pool Supply 200, but again, a shout out to the folks over at Sim Marketing Solutions for sponsoring our heat races and our LCQ earlier tonight. They added an additional $50 into the purse which is why we have that $160 total. $40 if you're the race winner, $20 to second and third, $15 to fourth and fifth, and $10 for everybody else who finishes inside of the top 10. So you may still see maybe one of those heat race-esque battles for 10th and 11th. Somebody else can pay their entry into one of the series coming up if they can get that spot, as the lights go back out on top of the pace car for what could very well be the last race start of the night, with 118 laps complete. 125. There is a chance of a green-white checker later on, so we won't refer to that point of no return. Pace car heads in. Let's just sit back and watch how this one plays out. Christian Peterson, again, going to have to try to get around Matt Carver. The 60 not in control. He wants a fourth late model stock win of the season. Back under green flag conditions. Here we go, side by side through 1 and 2.
Now's the point. If you're Christian Peterson, you have to pinch down on the race leader if you're going to try and make that outside lane work. Otherwise, he's just going to get away like he sees there. Clear off of turn 4. Peterson back to second, but now he has to set up this pass. Can he do it clean? You don't want to have any controversy when you get a win, especially here on LSR TV, but we've seen it before. Can he make the pass? Setting him up here, coming to 4 laps to go.
Especially when there's money on the line and you're talking about racing a teammate. He probably could have given him a shot that last time into the corner when he tucked in line. He was right there, opted not to. However, without having to fend off somebody in a battle for second and third, Coop, Peterson's doing not all that bad of a job of sticking to it, the race leader.
Yeah, he's losing just that much, just a little bit of time that if he doesn't make it up now, he's not going to have the opportunity to really even send it in if he wants to. So Peterson's taking the very wide arc out, trying to get the most momentum. And I think he may have just got him back a little bit. No, he just lost him a little bit. He's going to have to really push right there, just like he did that corner. He really pushed the car more than I think he was really wanting to. It's paid off for him that one corner. And I think we're going to see something pretty close. I just don't think he's going to have it right here.
2 laps to go. A mistake maybe on the inside, and a caution. A flag comes out. So we will slow them down, and I believe we will go to a green-white checker finish. Any other time at a yellow with 2 laps to go, David, this sucker's done, but Championship Esports Association rules allow for a green-white checker to be implemented, so we should be seeing that. We'll wait for the official word to come from the radio, but as they single file out, I fully expect we've got about 2 laps of pacing, and we will have 2 laps to race it out.
That was the number 83 of Sean Cross bringing out the yellow, and he's up in a cloud of smoke. But you know what? I'm not wearing a hat, but if I was wearing one, I would tip it to the guys over here running this league for giving the green-white checker opportunity if we can make it happen. We want to see a green finish. That's what they try to do in real life as well, and that's what everyone wants to see. You don't want to see a race like this end under yellow. So if we can get it back to green, give Christian Peterson one more opportunity. I see him doubling up. Evan, here we go. Let's settle it, boys.
They're going to be looking for a green-white checker finish. And, of course, they should have the opportunity to race it out. Race Control does reserve the right to throw a caution in all of this and bring it to an end. But all of that being said, this should be the run to the end from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and the American Bull Supply 200. Green flag in the air, 2 laps to go. It's a green-white checker finish on the outside of the racetrack. Peterson tries to pinch. Here comes Matt Carter back up on the inside, still side by side. Second to last time to the corner. The 23 tries to look low, and he's going to set him up for a move as the white flag is in the air. Look for the contact as they head down to 3 and 4 for the final time. Here comes Peterson to the inside. Side by side for the race win here at the Bullring. The contact, wow. Yeah! Christian Peterson pulls it out on the 2-lap to go run to the end.
And he didn't use the bumper. I think that's the most impressive thing. We've seen the bumper used all night tonight, and he just stuck it there, and it worked. I think just sheer force of will is where that one was at, and he just had to really push it. I think that was the only lap he led this whole race. That might have been the only lap he read.
And it comes
That's amazing.
He only led about, what, a tenth of the lap, and it was technically lap 127 when you factor in all of the overtime there with the green-white checker that we saw. He was able to maybe loosen the 69 up in the slightest coming out of turn 2. That or the pressure got to Kucker, but the inside opened up. He made the dive down, and kudos on to Kucker as well, David, for not, pinching down in both of those race cars wrecking. Again, those are teammates. They've raced with one another many a times, and yes, they came across the line beaten and banged, but that's about as clean and as good as a finish you'll ever see at this racetrack.
I can't even put into words how amazing that finish was. Two guys showing the ultimate respect to one another, and especially as teammates. You give them that little bit of extra something room that you wouldn't give somebody else, but it was clean, and that's great racing. And congratulations to Christian Peterson. I cannot wait to hear what he has to say about winning this race. But if you finish second in a race like that, especially after leading so many laps, you got to be absolutely gutted if you're Matt Kucker. So we'll hear from him as well. But goodness gracious, that's fantastic short track racing. That's why we watch. I'm thrilled with what we just saw.
And a fantastic finish. The best part is we'll get to chat with some of the drivers involved in that one in a moment. But as they maybe settle down a little bit and get the heart rate back down, we'll take one opportunity to step aside. And when we come back with the post-race show, we'll take a look at the top to bottom finishing results, and we will talk with your race finishers here tonight. But Christian Peterson uses the green-white checker finish to take the win and the main prize in tonight's American Bull Supply 200. We'll talk with him next. You're watching the Cars eSport Tour on LSR TV and the iRacing eSports Network.
So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up.
4 more kilometers. There we go! They touch!
This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride.
Wonky! Down to the inside, and Hoosie's off!
Passenger throws the block, and he will keep him behind him.
My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'll never go back down. Hand over my heart, I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSR TV, and it may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSR TV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.
Hi, I'm Michael Conti, driver of the number 5 4-front Chevy, and you're watching iRacing Live.
And welcome back live to the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. LSR TV's coverage of the Championship Esports Association Cars eSport Tour continuing tonight with the American Bull Supply 200, 9 weeks down, 3 to go on the 2018 season. But happy that you're sticking around with us on the iRacing eSports Network. Evan Pasoko, Austin Coop, David Childhouse with Cisco Scarlamusa hanging out with you. We will go trackside and talk with your top finishers in just a moment. But again, your top 5 in tonight's all results, still technically unofficial. Christian Peterson getting the win in this one on top of Matt Kunker. John Lyday is the driver who comes home in third. We'll be trackside with them momentarily, with Wade Sheeta and Ryan Doucette rounding out the top 5. It should then also be Joe Burchett, Connor Blaze, Robbie Bundon, Ricky Harden, Jeremy Scott Austin should say, look like the 10 drivers who are going to be walking away with the money. But again, your finishing results as of now are still unofficial. That being said, though, you're taking a look at the run to the start-finish line. I am down trackside with the driver of the number 23 machine. Christian Peterson is your race winner tonight for the Bullring. Christian, congratulations on the win. You had so many restarts where you were up along Matt on the right-hand side, and the outside just didn't seem to be a viable option. You were able to get good bite on the restart, keep it with him for a lap or so, but eventually it looked like you figured it out. You tucked in line, you made your move, and without much time to spare there, you steal the win. Just tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I'm not real thrilled about all the yellows, but we made the best of all of them, and when they were double file, and managed to get a lot of them on the bottom, and when I was on the top, I managed to get a quick yellow and was able to grab the guy on the inside a few times. So it was pretty good, and then I feel pretty lucky for the green-white checkers. I was pushing really hard there in the last couple laps because we had a little bit of green flag, like 10 laps or something there at the end, and then I screwed up going into one on 124, and I was like, oh, it's yours, bud, and then we got a yellow going at 3 or whatever, and really didn't think I had a shot, but I was able to get it down there on the bottom and just get it to the apron, and luckily it didn't get out, slide out from under me, and I thought it was a real good race down in turn 3.
Tell us about just working through the evening, obviously, through the heat races. Had to go from the back to the front in LCQ, and then also this one started way back in 17th position. You had a little bit more time to work with, but just tell us about how you were able to work that 23 machine through traffic. I know you mentioned a lot of yellows, just your overall thoughts on the night. It's always fun when we get to do some of these special events. At the end of the day, it ends up being you and Matt again, so just like any other Cars eSport Tour night, but certainly a lot of other faces that you got to race around this evening also.
Yeah, it was a blast, really. I hadn't had a lot of laps at this track. We haven't run it a lot here, and I really haven't run it other than the Championship Esports Association. So it was just the LCQ probably helped a little bit. Got some more laps under the belt, and then the heat race was a real struggle. I just got stuck on the outside and really couldn't do anything. I was surprised I was able to hang with Cucker there at the end, like I was for a few laps, just because of how bad I was in the heats on the outside, but. Yeah, we struggled there in the heats, and I was a little bit down, but we got through the LCQ, won that from pretty far back in the field, and that gave us a little confidence to just be patient and drive through the field. I knew we had a lot of laps and just made the best of it, but it was a lot of fun.
Certainly, you and Matt going to be seeing a lot of each other. You have already, and confidence, something you mentioned a lot. We know that you guys have plenty of that. Already 2 wins, now 3 if you count this one in with the late model stocks already this year. You're right up there in the championship battle in these cars. That's a 13-point difference. And even though you're 1 spot lower in the points in the super lates, even actually closer in that series, only 7 off of the top spot, also chasing Matt. 3 weeks to go with both of those series competing all the way through to the end of this one with Lanier, 5 Flags, Sobo coming up. What do you guys have to do to take home some trophies here for 2018?
Well, hopefully we'll just get some more laps under our belt at those tracks. I haven't really been racing a lot, but we're going to, for this, it's just going to be, we're going to run the practices that get put up and hopefully just try to chug away at his points lead. It's going to be tough, obviously, us being teammates, and usually we're both running pretty good, or if we're not, somehow we both have a bad week. It's been pretty consistent this season, so that's pretty fun, but it's gonna be nice actually with the super picking back up, because we've had a bunch of weeks off, so it'll be nice to get back into like the flow of the season.
We'll let you get out of here, Christian. Before we do sponsors and shout outs, who makes that number 23 machine to be able to give us some exciting finishes like that one?
No, like always, everybody at Vincier and Six Man all the guys at Austin Designs and American Pool Supply. You put on a good show tonight. There was a lot of cars, a lot of heat races, and it was chaotic, but it was a lot of fun. So just thanks to all the guys that put on the show and you guys for putting on the broadcast.
He's your race winner tonight in the American Pool Supply 200. He takes that purse for P1 to Christian Peterson with the checkered flag tonight. Christian, good to talk to you again. Congrats, and we'll catch you in a couple weeks.
All right, thanks, Evan.
Another successful outing for the driver of the number 23 machine. Matt Cucker, oh so good on oh so many restarts, but at the very end, Austin Coop gets beat out by a longtime rival and teammate. He comes home second tonight. You are trackside with the driver of the number 69 machine.
Yeah, when it came down to the very end, it was Christian Peterson who had come in first. But Matt Cucker, you finished second, and I think David had said it earlier, kind of a gut-wrenching feeling, but you led a lot of laps. You still had a shelf a really good race, and you finished second. And I would have to assume that you'd still be in the lead at points. So is that any solace to finishing second at all?
Well, actually, there's a big solace to finishing second here because if I would have won, it would have been 2 weeks in a row. And then coming up on Lanier on August 8th, it would have started to be dead last. So that track's hard to pass at with these cars and a fixed set. So I look at it that way. I mean, yeah, it was gut-wrenching. You got by me. I screwed up. I mean, it was completely on me. And I try not to make those mistakes. And I'm human. It happens. So hats off to him. He was there, the right spot, right moment. And I choked, plain as day.
You know, I remember quite some time ago, it's been so long ago, I don't remember the race, but this was actually a role reversal from a race that happened quite some time ago, and you guys race so often, I just can't dang remember it, because you guys are our first and second so often, but I think this is kind of one of those things where it comes full circle, but still, you finished second. I don't think Christian Peterson finished second at the time that you guys had that, but you guys don't have that many races left, and with the points being now just a little bit closer between you two, I thought about this earlier, but how much team communication is there still in the race? Because as you guys are first, second in points, a lot of times first, second on the track, how much do you guys still work together, team before individual?
All the time. We're still always a team. I mean, before the super races, we're always handing out sets to each other. Here, try this, you try that. So we're constantly talking as a team. And then when the race comes, we still talk as a team, but it's not like, all right, I'm going to let you down. We go out, we pretty much put our helmets on and we race. Under the yellows, we'll talk to each other just like normal. And that under that one yellow who's behind me, I'm like, oh, you're showing me your nose already. He goes, yeah, I'm trying to get in your head. And then I guess it worked because we're sitting here in second, and he walked home with the win. And hats off to him for it.
I find it quite odd that he's telling you what he's doing and he still got away with it. You can't let him do that next time, Matt. Before we let you go, of course, Matt, once again, great racing from you. It was exciting to watch, and it was definitely worth the wait through the cautions. But who makes it happen for you on the, oh shoot, what's your number? Number 69 machine.
I got to thank Team Vince here, obviously. Globalcom, I Analyze, Turn 3 Auto Transport, Peterson Irrigation, 6-Man Race Cars, Scott Austin Designs. You guys for putting on a show here at LSR and on the iRacing eSports Network, and Kyle Barnes for putting the show together.
All right, there you have it. Second place finisher, Matt Cucker, and then we will toss it down farther down pit road and give it to David, who will catch up with John Lyday.
Well, John, I'm going to put it to you straight. You got to witness one amazing finish. You come home third, but you see a side-by-side battle on a green-white checker. You come home with a fairly clean race car, too, looking over your number 20 machine. I'm not really sure I even see a mark on it, one of the few vehicles without damage. Tell us about your night.
Well, you know, it's just, I think it was a lot of luck in the draw, just, you know, cautions and whatnot, just being on the bottom and just being able to work. I was able to follow CP quite a lot up through the field, and, you know, I had my fair share of bumping into people on restarts and stuff, you know, just locking the brakes up a couple of times, had a lot of checkups on the bottom, but, you know, I had a blast. It's a good time, man. Enjoyed all the racing with all the heats and stuff, so, you know, glad to be here and chat for a change.
Well, it's good to have you up here. You definitely put in a great effort, and following a guy like Christian Peterson through the field, he started in the back, won that LCQ, and he was a good guy to follow. So you're sitting there on the green-white checker. What's going through your mind? You know you got 2 laps to get it done. You're on the inside lane, the preferred groove, and there's a good likelihood there might be contact in front of you. Did you think you had a shot at the win?
You know, with them being teammates in front of me, man, I'd have done whatever I could, and I did. You know, they are definitely able to outfox me, but you know, sure thing. If me and CP were in the last lap and going into turn 3, I'd have gave him every bit of the door I had for sure. You know, it's racing, man.
Absolutely right. That's the answer I was hoping you were going to give because it's the right answer. That's short track racing right there. But still, a third place finish, a great night all around. A lot of fun. We enjoyed watching it. As a driver out here at the Bullring, you know, what are you looking for over 125 laps? How do you get to the front when you start in the back, or how do you deal with all these yellows that we saw tonight?
Like I said, just luck of the draw. You know, just right place, right time, I think was all about tonight, really. You know, just being able to survive and be on the bottom and be able to block when you had to when, you know, people are trying to get a nose in there. Definitely had some faster cars behind me after a couple of restarts there, and they ended up getting into the back with cautions and stuff. And for sure, you know, I felt pretty comfortable where I was at then with a couple others that were up front most of the night with Matt and CP. So, you know, other than that, that's pretty much what it was, man. You know, just protect the bottom and try and roll it the best you can. The car was loose in on the brake, especially when trying to arc it in the corner here. So just had to be careful there.
Well, it's a podium finish for you nonetheless, a great result, and just a phenomenal effort to bring it home with a clean piece underneath of you. So I'll give you an opportunity to say hello to the friends, family, and those who helped get you here to the racetrack tonight.
Yeah, man, of course. You know, Vincier and Six, man, just so lucky to be on this team, man. Didn't feel like I contributed very much, and definitely feel like I'm starting to do that now. Of course, ProTech, finally, you know, them helping me with a lot of gear and getting me comfortable and racing and everything with my new seat and all. I feel real proud to be with those guys. Of course, Austin Designs, great paint. I Analyze, you know, always helping us with telemetry, global comm. Just can't thank everybody enough. Of course, you guys, CEA, iRacing, love it.
He's your third-place finisher tonight. Completes the clean sweep of the podium for Vincier Racing. John Lyday, congratulations on a great run tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you here on LSR TV again real soon.
Going for the win next time, boys.
There you have it. I like to hear that from the third-place finisher as well. Wants to improve, Evan. Doesn't want to run third next time. He wants to get himself a trophy.
And it's awfully tough competition to be going up against. I'll tell you what, Matt Cucker, Christian Peterson, not only do we see a lot of familiar faces here, the likes of, you know, Wade Sheeta and Jay Beasley and some of the other drivers, of course. It was nice having Scott Gaffarini with us. I know the night didn't go necessarily how he wanted, but again, I'm sure he'd be totally open if anybody wanted to challenge him at the Bullring, give him a shot again, the all-time winningest driver out there, for joining us tonight and made it all the way through and survived to the end to finish in 13th position at the end of it all. But certainly when he's going up against those kind of drivers, David, there's only so much you can do. And I think the biggest takeaway from what I heard John talking about there was how they've been improving over the course of the year. There's not a lot of time left, but I think he's starting to kind of come into his own. Maybe that confidence going to be going a long way as we head into the final 3 weeks.
When you have teammates like that, you got to be able to pull something away from it to improve your own performance. And Vincier Racing really just coming out and making a statement, sweeping the podium. And John Lyday, definitely a big part of that. Didn't give himself enough credit, I don't think, for his own performance here tonight. But learned a lot from Christian Peterson and Matt Cucker as well. And if you can learn from those guys, apply it to your own performance, I don't see any reason why he couldn't be taking home a trophy for himself. So a big round of applause to all those guys. Great performance, and I think it really gives them a lot of momentum for the final push here in this season.
And of course, he comes home in the money tonight, so he's going to be taking away some of that, but there is some hardware to be handed out still, Austin Coot. We have 3 weeks left with this Cars eSport Tour. I have a couple of weeks off. We have 1 race in August, 1 in September, 1 in October, but Lanier, Five Flags, Sobo, going to round out the season. If you just stumbled upon this tonight, you are not going to want to miss it. You will see a lot more of what you just saw with the 69 and the 23 as we get set to close 2018. Both the late model stock and super late titles very close.
Yeah, and I think we do have those 2 drivers that consistently show us good hard racing. But to see John Lyday get up there, I haven't seen him race that hard and do that for quite some time. And I think that was that just goes to show that not everybody is out compared to those 2. There's a lot of guys that are definitely still good contenders. It might not be their best racetrack this week, and so we go on to the next one. And we're going to see, I think, just a whole bunch of between now and the next few races, especially Sobo. So we saw a really big surprise last time we were there. We're in for a treat the rest of the season, for sure.
And of course, we hope you join us then. Until that next time comes around, though, that does it for us here tonight from the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I want to thank all of the people who make this possible for putting on such a good show week in and week out. Of course, Pit Row Media, Tony Stevens, all their folks with the graphics, the Championship Esports Association, obviously Kyle Barnes for organizing the series, Chris Regal, the Cars Tour for their continuing support, Jacqueline Drake, the Cars Tour media team as well. You'll see a lot of the cross-promotion stuff on the Facebook Live. A big shout out to tonight's sponsors, the folks over at Sim Marketing Solutions and American Pool Supply as well, for making all of this possible. And on behalf of our team at Live Sim Racing LLC, for myself, Evan Pasoko, Austin Coop, David Schildhouse, executive producer Cisco Scarnuzzo, we want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Christian Peterson, your race winner here tonight in the American Pool Supply 200. We've got a couple of weeks off. One thing to note that you are not going to want to miss is the Cars Tour Throwback 276. That one upcoming on August the 4th. And just days later, we will return from the Lanier Motor Speedway for our own throwback race with the Cars eSport Tour. That race coming up on August the 8th. Every single race at the Championship Esports Association's Cars eSport Tour can be found right here on LSR TV and the all-new iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Las Vegas.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.